All right, this is what we're gonna do. In a moment, we're all gonna get up and we're gonna start this activity. This is the activity. I call it label me. You're going to take a label and you're gonna go up to somebody and you're gonna write something about them. And I want it to be something positive, like cool haircut, or awesome shirt, or pretty eyes, or cool shoes. You smell good, or handsome, pretty. I want you to find something positive about that person. If you don't know them, ask them, what are you good at? Oh, we found out that we have a soccer player. Write out soccer player. And then you're going to give a label to different people. You have five labels. So everyone in here should get like at least 2 labels. So you're going to have to meet some new people, give them a label. Don't just go to the same people. You have to go to 5 different people and write a label and stick it on their shirt. Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to see any bad labels, alright? These are going to be good labels. Okay, everybody up! If I could have your attention up here. So we've been talking about our series called Flipped.
Quiet coyotes, guys in the back.
And today we're talking more about flipped and how Jesus can flip our lives. Specifically, labels. Everyone's got some labels on them. I've got a label I want to share with you that I felt like was something that was true about me for a long time. I always thought I was always a bad speller. And let me share the story why. When I was in the 3rd grade, like a lot of you might have done, you had to try out for the spelling bee in class.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if it was mandatory or not. You would just go up and down the rows and everyone had to try and spell a word. And whoever won in their class got to go to the spelling bee. Somehow I made it to the spelling bee.
Yikes. Yay.
Don't really remember how that happened or the fact that I could spell any of those words. And I get up there and my mom came and she was right in the front and I saw her in the auditorium. Actually, there's a cafeteria with the stage. And I got on stage, and my first word, such an easy word, was make.
Andrew, spell the word make.
And I got on stage, and I spelled make. M-A-C-K. And I was out of the spelling bee. It was incredibly sad. I disappointed my mom. And I thought of myself as a bad speller the rest of my life. Until now, I started reading more books. Thomas reading good. The more I read, the smarter I got, and now I can spell words fairly well. Not all words, as you can see here. But yeah, I'm no longer a bad speller, so I can just go ahead and get rid of this one. And I also lose things. So would that make me a loser? Okay, so who here has ever been called a name? Some of you have been called a name. Now, some of you have been called names and you remember those names and you think that that's true about yourself. I've been called names when I was in middle school. Somebody called me a fat boy.
How are you fat?
I was chunky in middle school. Stupid, some other names that I don't really want to mention here. And some of you have been called names that are just really, really mean. Really, really bad. And it's hurt who you are. And it's kind of changed and made who you are today. Some of you believe those names, and you think that they're true about yourself. So today I had you all grab some labels and write really, really good things about each other. But I would say in your schools, around your friends, you're probably not given labels that are this nice. You're probably given really, really, really harsh labels, like I said earlier, like loser, or nerd, or geek, or airhead.
That's making me hungry.
So what do we do with these labels? What do we do with these words that people say to us? I want to show you all a little bit. Now I have a story I want to share with you all. It comes from the Bible.
Who brought their Bible with them?
Oh, you get a piece of candy for bringing your Bible. Hey Matt, pass some of these out. Mark 5:24. Mark 5:24. When you're there, say there.
There.
Okay, please follow along. So Jesus was in a crowd, and there was a woman in the crowd who had a hemorrhage for 12 years. A hemorrhage is internal bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors through the years and had spent everything she had to pay them. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she was worse. Okay, so a little background information. If you want to learn more about how people were treated back then when they had stuff like this, read Leviticus. Okay, Leviticus 15 specifically talks about what to do with people who are bleeding. And I'm not were treated as unclean. Okay, they were given this label. Somebody who is unclean, meaning ceremonially unclean, could not be touched. They had to go through a cleansing period of time. Usually 7 days. They had to be off on their own in their own part of the city. They couldn't have a lot of interaction with people. There are also times where if somebody was unclean, you had to say, unclean, if this person was coming, so others would know. Now this woman, for 12 years, she had this problem. And it probably affected the way she dressed. Had to wear certain clothing so that if she did bleed, that it wouldn't get all over her and show everybody that she was a bleeding person. So just imagine being labeled unclean, and everybody knew she was unclean because you know everybody where you live. It's a small area. And so this was her for 12 years. 12 years being called unclean. Walk by, don't touch me. Stay on that side of the road. I don't want anything to do with you. Go off on your own. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched the fringe of his robe. Now, whoa, some unclean person come and touch you? You'd be like, get away from me. Don't touch me. I don't want anything to do with you. So they knew not to touch people. She thought to herself, if I could just touch his clothing, I will be healed. Now I'm kind of going through what she's thinking. For the last 12 years, no one's wanted to talk to her, no one's wanted to touch her. She's unclean. She's probably thinking, nobody cares about me. No one cares that I'm hurting. I don't even want to waste Jesus' time by talking to him or asking for help. That's what she's probably thinking. I'm so unclean and so bad that I don't even want to look at him. I don't want him to see me. I'll just come from behind him and maybe touch his clothing. Immediately, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel that she had been healed. So boom, in an instant, she touches his robe. She is healed. Jesus realized at once that the healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? Okay, going back to this lady who's like unclean. She hasn't really had much interaction for the last 12 years because people are distancing themselves from her, including her own family, because she's unclean. And so you are not supposed to touch anybody. That was like a crime. You're unclean, because that means you make somebody else unclean. So if I'm unclean, and I go, okay, Alex, oh, now you're unclean, you need to go be separated for 7 days, and then show yourself to the priest that, yeah, I'm clean now. So imagine, no one wanted to do that. No one wanted to wait for 7 days to be clean again so they can go to the temple. Jesus turned around and said, who touched me? She thought, oh no, I'm going to get found out. I shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't even be in the crowd. I just touched all these people. I just made everybody unclean. Everyone's going to hate me even more. His disciples said to him, all this crowd is pressing around you. How can you ask who's touching me? Jesus, there's people everywhere. They're all touching you. How can you say there's one person touching you? But he kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet and told him what she had done. So she basically fessed up to this crime, because to them this was a crime. It's like, when you're in elementary school, some of you are still there, the girls have cooties, and you don't want them to touch you unless you got your cootie shot. And if somebody touched you, now you have cooties and you can pass it on. Now we all know that cooties aren't real. Now, she fell at his feet, and if I had my expo marker, it would say unclean on here. Unclean. Jesus said this to her. This is where Jesus takes somebody's life and flips it around, okay? So he flipped this woman's life. Right here in verse 34. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. You have been healed. Jesus took that label that said unclean. He wiped it off and he put daughter. For some of you, it's son, daughter, and son. That's huge. Daughter, that term is a very endearing term, especially during this time. That means you were included. You were part of the family. You were accepted. Okay? If somebody's calling you unclean, stay away. But daughter, child, being a child of God, that means you're now on the in. Her life was flipped around from unclean to daughter. Now for some of you, you're given labels. What are you doing with those labels? So first question, who gets to label you? Are you allowing other people to define you? Are you allowing your past mistakes, bad speller, to define you? Are you allowing your relationships to define you? Maybe your grades? Do you feel like you're dumb because you get B's and C's? Maybe a D here and there? Your own opinion of yourself? This is who I want to label you, and this is the only person I want you to look to for labels is Jesus. It's him. His label is the most important label. Child of God. Son, daughter, accepted, loved. Now that also goes for you. Who gets to label other people? Are you constantly labeling others? When you see somebody for the first time, do you think, oh, that person's weird. I don't want to go talk to them. So think about that. All other labels, and that's God's. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take some time to talk about that.